I hit record, and then it sounded like somebody was coming up the steps. This happens a lot here. This place is super fucking haunted, but it sounded like somebody was coming up the steps, so I stopped and I went out there to check again, and there's nobody there, and I've got the fucking hair on my arms is standing up. Every time. It happens a lot here, but every time it freaks me out, man. Alright, let's make this short and sweet. It's 1 a.m. and I'm 3 months late on this review. Mission Impossible Final Reckoning, or Dead Reckoning, or Mission Impossible 8. Yeah, I needed something to fill in a couple days before Jurassic Park comes out, so I dumped How to Train Your Dragon, and I brought in Mission Impossible, which starts tomorrow, and, you know, here I am sitting alone in my haunted theater watching it. Yeah, I've been a fan of this series. I really liked the more recent ones. Like, since the J.J. Abrams one on, I think they kind of found their stride, because the first one's the De Palma one, and it feels so quaint. You know, even though they bring a lot of the De Palma one back into this one, you know, and they show poor Emilio Estevez dying a couple times in flashbacks. You know, I part 2 I'm not a fan of. I've never been a fan of that one. My lasting memory of part 2 was the that soundtrack. It was Foo Fighters doing "Have a Cigar" by Pink Floyd, and then I used to date this girl who, the dude she was super into in college grew his hair to look like Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible 2, and after she and I had broken up, I met this guy. We went to like a musical musical festival or something like that, and he said, "What do you think of my hair?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, man, you had long hair." He's like, "Yeah, I grew it to look like Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible 2. And I just looked at her and went, "You picked that instead? All right." I mean, you know. But yeah. So like, I had to go back and rewatch 3, 4, 5, 6 because I didn't remember a lot of what happened. And then this one thankfully catches you up on everything that happened in part 7, because that one and the last Fast and the Furious movie came out around the same time, and I just kind of like, they kind of blurred together in my head for some reason. I was like, wait, Jason Momoa wasn't in Mission Impossible, was he? Like, I'm getting old man brain. This one is probably the weakest since part 2. It's got that Daniel Craig James Bond thing recently where like everything has to be connected. You know, all of these things, they've been pulling these strings behind the scenes this whole time, and this is connected to this, and I was just like, it doesn't have to be that way, you know? The first 2 acts of this movie are just like so much filler, and so much remember this, remember that, remember this had to happen so that this could happen kind of thing. I do they keep showing poor Emilio Estevez's death from the first movie, you know, and you know, they bring back the guy who was the computer tech when Ethan had like the dangling thing, and he dropped the knife, and that guy, like, his whole life was changed by that, but for the better. And then he comes in and he's kind of fills the role of like Miles Dyson in Terminator 2. And then like the character who plays John Voight's son from the first movie, they have bad blood. You know, Angela Bassett comes back, and there's too many characters, and there's too many things going on. It's the ending multiplication thing that happens in like the Phantom Menace. There's just all these different stories going on. It doesn't really get until the third act when the movie gets exciting and interesting, and like, oh, okay, we're like a Mission Impossible movie now. And I like the sub scene. He goes underwater in this like sub as it's like kind of teetering off the edge of falling into like a trench. But a lot of these things, like that one, sort of also reminds me of the one where he had to like go underwater in the other one to like, and that thing kept swinging around and hit him. And then even when they have the really cool airplane fight scene in this one, the dogfight angle was kind of like they did with the Henry Cavill one already. I appreciate the fact that Tom Cruise is a fucking crazy person and will go out of his way to do these wild stunts and stuff like that. I don't know, I just found myself less interested in this one, and it bounced around a lot, where I got up to go to the bathroom at one point, and when I came back he was in Africa, and I was like, this is like fucking Transformers 2, where they're in that museum, and they come out and they're in Arizona for some reason. I'm like, how do we get here? Like, and it's not a complicated movie, but it just it overcomplicates itself, you know. And then you're introducing the shame lady from Game of Thrones, who's also in Ted Lasso, and Ron Swanson's in it, and Angela Bassett's back in it, and you introduce the dude from he was in Mindhunter, obviously, but I always just know him as the guy who played the Native American in Creepshow 2, who gets scalped by Old Chief Woodenhead. There's just a million characters in this movie, and it's too much, and you're introducing Hallie Atwell back into it, and you're introducing the chick who was Mantis back into it, because they were in the last one, and I don't know, it seems too bloated. And even at 3 hours, it didn't feel like there was enough time for everything to kind of feel hashed out. It's well shot, it's well executed, the action scenes are well done, you know. No one rips off a face at any point in this movie. They didn't bring Jeremy Renner back. Or Alec Baldwin. He's not back. Well, I guess why he wouldn't be back. It still sounds like it. I'm probably losing my mind, but you know, I don't know. I liked it, but I definitely didn't like it as much as the last few. I thought the one with Henry Cavill was fucking awesome. I love Philip Seymour Hoffman is the bad guy in part 3 and stuff. And they take you back down memory lane to all that stuff. And there's the big MacGuffin that they have, the entity. They say the entity 100 times. This movie speaks so much in hyperbole. It's like, you have to trust me one last time. This is the last mission. You know, this is the final time we'll be doing it. And it's just, that happens so much it almost becomes like parody after a while. And I know everything has to have like very high stakes, but isn't like nuclear bombs and the whole, and America having to choose which city to blow up of its own to stop this thing? Like, isn't that enough? You know, Ethan Hunt's also starting to look like my mom. Like, he's starting to get like that like 60-year-old lady mom face. You know, but good. Tom Cruise is finally aging. Good for him, man. It's wild to think that these movies have been coming out for as long as they have. De Palma did the first one back in like 95, I think it was. I know I saw it with my mom in the theater because she was really impressed that she didn't understand the part where he broke up the light bulbs and put them outside of the door. And she's like, what's that? So I was like, oh, so you hear people like coming, you hear the crunching. And she's like, oh, I would have never thought about that. And she thought I was like really smart. And I was like, oh, I was a dumb middle schooler at that point. Now I'm a dumb full-grown man. You know, they didn't give... They just don't give everybody enough time to breathe. I think this story should have been... They almost would have been better off making it more in line with the first movie, a smaller, more intimate story to kind of wrap everything up. And then you kind of get this, like, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, or Last Crusade kind of scene where everyone's kind of meeting in one place and they have to do this thing to make sure that he goes off and does the thing. You know, you can't save him when you're dead. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't dislike it. It's a big movie. It's grand. It's you know, and all the aerial photography stuff is really, really cool. I just felt like it was too much. It was overstuffed, and you get to a point where almost like a Transformers movie where it's just there's so much going on that you almost like become deactivated from it to a degree. So yeah, this is probably the weakest since the second one, for me at least. It would have stood to be. I would have made it smaller. You know, I feel like even with this big world-ending AI thing and what they're trying to say with all that of like disinformation and all that, I get it. You know, but I almost feel like we could have done something, you know, more drawn back to kind of end this series on a high, where it doesn't go out on a whimper. It goes out on a big grand, note. But I just felt like it was just too overstuffed, and there was just too much going on, and I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad I saw it in the theater. These kind of movies need to be watched on the big screen, and we have great fucking sound here. But yeah, at certain times I just kept like checking my phone. I was sitting up in the balcony, and I just kept like checking my phone, and I was like, how much longer does this thing have to go? Because I don't know. I found myself losing interest, and then you get to like a set piece and you'd be into it, but then it would go too long. You know, and but all the plane stuff in this was really cool. But I don't think it stands up to some of the other big, like him fucking climbing that building in Dubai and stuff, or you know, that stuff is gonna leave me with a lot more of an impression than this one did. So yeah, Final Reckoning Part 2, or Dead Reckoning Part 2, or Mission Impossible 8. And today is actually seeing this. Layla Schifrin died today. When I'm recording this, and he was the one who did the original score. I think he's one of the greatest action composers of all time. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm not bummed out by it, but I'm also just like, oh, okay. You know, I want the fucking shadow to move on the wall or something behind me to make this this video memorable in some way, but it's not. All right, that's it. It's 1 a.m. I'm gonna go downstairs, and if this doesn't get uploaded, it's because you know, the ghost got me. But probably just go home and fall asleep. All right, Mission Impossible Part 8, Final Dead Reckoning. Overstuffed. What did you think of it, though? Tell me what you thought of it, and you know what your ranking of these would be, because I think like once it gets to Part 3, like 4 especially, and to like onto the one before this one, I think are like the sweet spot of this series. It would be like the Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and 4 that people really kind of like sink their teeth into. All right, that's it. Mission Impossible. Tom Cruise will. You know, the last movie star. He really is. He's the last great movie star. So, because we don't have those kind of people anymore. And we don't have people hang on the fucking sides of airplanes and shit like that. So, you're not going to get another series like this anytime soon, especially one that's going to have the legs of something that's been around since the 90s. You know, I guess you have the Fast and the Furious movies, but, you know, that's a whole different ball of string. That's another one that started really small. It's like fucking dudes like stealing VHS DVD players into like ninja robot, astronaut, hacker, superheroes, you know. I don't know. I'm tired. Goodbye.